John Wayne Gacy. Smiling like a clown, killing like a monster. John Wayne Gacy's case stands as one of the most shocking serial murder series in 1970s American crime history. Known publicly as a respected businessman and Pogo the Clown who entertained children, he lured and killed 33 young men between 1972 and 1978. His double life concealed a horrific secret in the basement of his home at 8213 Summerdale Avenue, Norwood Park, Illinois. Gacy's story was not only about gruesome murders, it was about deception. In a decade when communities trusted neighbors and welcomed clowns into their children's parties, John Wayne Gacy managed to hide his true nature in plain sight. Before we can understand how he became both a public figure admired by many and a killer feared by all, we must look closely at his formative years and the double life he created. Early life and public facade. Born on March 17, 1942, in Chicago, Illinois, John Wayne Gacy grew up under the shadow of an alcoholic father. His father, John Stanley Gacy, subjected him to physical and emotional abuse. His father belittled him, calling him names like dumb or stupid, deeply affecting his self-esteem and personality development. During his school years, Gacy faced bullying. He also developed a strong desire for social approval, a trait that later underpinned his dual life of public respectability and hidden crimes. In his 20s, Gacy moved to Waterloo, Iowa, working as a KFC restaurant manager, establishing himself as a businessman. In 1960, he married Marlon Myers, with whom he had 2 children. But they divorced in 1969. In 1972, he remarried Carol Hoff, though this marriage ended in 1976. Gacy engaged in local Democratic Party activities, building political connections, and volunteered as Pogo the Clown at community events, entertaining children. This public persona earned him trust, masking his growing dark impulses, first crime, and warning signs. In 1967, while working as a KFC manager in Waterloo, Iowa, Gacy lured 15-year-old Donald Voorhees to his home. He offered Voorhees alcohol, showed him pornographic films, and sexually assaulted him while he was intoxicated. Gacy threatened Voorhees to keep him silent, but Voorhees' father, Donald Edwin Voorhees, noticed his son's distress and reported the incident to police, leading to Gacy's arrest. In 1968, Gacy was convicted of sexual assault and sentenced to 10 years in prison. However, he was paroled after 18 months for good behavior. This incident marked an early warning of Gacy's dangerous tendencies, but authorities failed to take it seriously. After parole, Gacy returned to Chicago, founded PDM Contractors, a construction company, and appeared to start anew at 8213 Summerdale Avenue in Norwood Park, Illinois. His home soon became the setting for a string of murders, crime methods, and pre-divorce killings. From 1972 to 1978, Gacy killed 33 young men. He targeted mostly teenagers and young adults in their late teens to early 20s, often runaways, job seekers, or vulnerable individuals. As a construction company owner, he used offers of jobs or as a friendly neighbor, invitations to parties or meals to lure victims to his home. Once there, he tricked them into being handcuffed under the guise of a magic trick and incapacitated them with alcohol or sedatives like Valium. He then sexually assaulted and tortured them. Most were strangled with a rope or his hands using a garrote method. 26 bodies were buried in the crawl space beneath his home, while 7 were dumped in the Des Plaines River or around his property. From 1972 to 1976, Gacy lived with his wife, Carol Hoff. He committed killings during this period by exploiting her schedule, as she often worked or was away during the day. In January 1972, Timothy McCoy, a 16-year-old traveler from Nebraska, accepted Gacy's offer of a meal at a bus terminal and went to his home. There, Gacy stabbed him to death. Gacy later admitted this was his first killing. In July 1975, John Butkovich, 17-year-old employee at Gacy's company, was lured to the house with a promise to resolve a wage dispute and was strangled. The crawl space, a narrow area beneath the house floor, was inaccessible to Carol. Gacy buried bodies there, covering them with concrete or dirt. Carol noticed foul odors, but accepted Gacy's excuses of sewer issues or dead animals. She grew suspicious of his late-night outings and interactions with young men, but lacked evidence. By late 1975, their marriage deteriorated, leading to separation. They divorced in March 1976, driven by Gacy's abnormal sexual behavior and the unsettling home atmosphere. Post-divorce killings and escalation. After his 1976 divorce, Gacy's killings surged. About a month after his second divorce was finalized, Gacy kidnapped and murdered 18-year-old Daryl Sampson, who was last seen alive in Chicago on April 6, 1976, 5 weeks later. On May 14th, 15-year-old Randall Reffitt vanished while walking home from Senn High School. In just hours after Reffitt's disappearance, 14-year-old Samuel Stapleton was never seen alive again. Michael Bonin, 17, went to Gacy's home for a party invitation, and William Bundy, 19, for a job offer. Both were bound with ropes and strangled. Kenneth Parker, 16, and Michael Marino, 14, were invited to a party where they were given alcohol and strangled. Francis Wayne Alexander, 21, was lured with a job offer. Richard Whalen, 15, with a meal, and James Hawkinson, 16, with a tour of Chicago. All were drugged or strangled. Rick Johnston, 19, a company employee, was called for a job discussion, and Kenneth Johnson, 19, for a party. Both were killed. Gregory Godzik, 17, a worker who helped dig the crawl space, was lured to finish a job and killed. In 1977, Robert Gilroy, 18, David Talsma, 19, and Russell Nelson, 21, were lured with a party invitation. John Schick, 19, was called to discuss a car sale and strangled. John Michael Prestige, 15, and Robert Jerome Winch, 18, were offered a meal, and Matthew Bowman, 19, a party. Both were killed. John Mowry, 19, and Tommy Bowling, 20, were both lured with job offers or interviews before being strangled. In 1978, William Kindred, in his late teens or early 20s, was lured by Gacy with the promise of a job and strangled to death. Tim O'Rourke, a young man in his late teens, was approached under the pretense of work and killed by Gacy. Frank Wayndale Landingen, 19, accepted Gacy's invitation for companionship and was strangled after entering his home. James Massara, around 20 or 21, was drawn in by the offer of work and was strangled. The final known victim, Robert Piest, 15, was persuaded with the promise of a better-paying job and was strangled the same night. 5 victims remain unidentified, their bodies found in the crawl space or river but unlinked to families or records. Neighbors reported foul odors multiple times, but police dismissed them as sewer issues. On January 20th, 1977, John Schick's disappearance marked a critical moment. Schick sold his Volkswagen Beetle to Gacy and vanished. His parents, particularly his mother, Elizabeth Schick, reported his disappearance to police, noting Gacy's possession of the car. They suspected Gacy after learning Schick last met him, but Gacy claimed Schick sold the car for money and left town. Police verified the car's VIN number, confirmed the sale, and treated the case as a runaway, without further investigation. In September 1977, Richard Whalen's family reported his disappearance and suspected Gacy, but police concluded it was a runaway case. In March 1978, Jeffrey Rignall managed to escape after Gacy lured, drugged, and assaulted him, and he reported the attack to police. However, authorities dismissed the complaint because Gacy was seen as a respected local businessman and community member. Gacy, appearing at events in his clown costume, deflected suspicion, turning his home into a tomb for 33 lives. Investigation and arrest. On December 11, 1978, the disappearance of 15-year-old Robert Piest triggered Gacy's downfall. Piest, a suburban Chicago high school student working at a pharmacy, left to discuss a summer job offer with Gacy and never came back. His mother, Julia Piest, immediately reported him missing. The pharmacy owner, Phil Torf, told police Gacy had spoken with Piest, placing Gacy under suspicion. Unlike prior victims often dismissed as runaways, Piest came from a stable family, and his mother's prompt report spurred police action. On December 12th, Des Plaines police questioned Gacy about Piest. He denied knowing the boy, but police uncovered his 1968 Iowa sexual assault conviction, heightening suspicion. On December 13th, police obtained a warrant and searched Gacy's home. They found Piest's jacket, a blood-stained carpet, victims' rings and watches, and a strong odor coming from the crawlspace. But no bodies were found, as the crawlspace floor was not excavated. Under U.S. law, an arrest or further search requires probable cause. The evidence was suspicious, but lacked direct proof of murder, such as bodies or confirmed blood analysis. Therefore, police did not arrest Gacy immediately. Instead, they placed him under 24-hour surveillance to gather more evidence. Gacy remained calm after the search, followed police vehicles, attempted conversations, and visited the police station to offer coffee, displaying his manipulative nature. He had previously deflected suspicion in 1977 when John Schick's parents raised concerns, claiming Schick left town. During the Piest investigation, Gacy's behavior grew erratic. On December 20th, he told police he was exhausted and that everything needed to end. On December 21st, Gacy was arrested on drug trafficking charges. He used sedatives like Valium to subdue victims and abuse marijuana. These charges surfaced during the Piest investigation when former employees and acquaintances provided statements. One employee reported Gacy purchasing large quantities of Valium and distributing it, while another witnessed him using marijuana. These statements, gathered through anonymous tips and interviews, lacked a specific named informant. With insufficient murder evidence, police used the drug charges to detain Gacy. He did not resist arrest but showed anxiety at the station. On December 22nd, police obtained a second warrant and researched Gacy's home, excavating the crawl space and discovering the first body. Further searches uncovered 26 bodies in the crawl space, 3 on the property and 4 in the Des Plaines River. This brought the total to 33. Gacy confessed to killing 33 people, stating they had angered him. Trial and sentencing. In January 1979, Gacy was charged with 33 counts of murder. His trial began on February 6, 1980, in Cook County Court and lasted 5 weeks. The defense argued insanity, citing childhood abuse and trauma leading to dissociative schizophrenia. 7 psychiatrists testified to Gacy's antisocial personality disorder and compulsive behavior. Gacy displayed odd behavior, drawing pictures and laughing during the trial. The prosecution countered that Gacy acted with full mental capacity and intent. They supported this claim with survivor testimonies from past assaults. 10 psychiatrists also stated that Gacy knew right from wrong and concealed his crimes. Gacy's confession tapes, where he called victims trash and showed no remorse, shocked the jury. On March 12th, the jury returned a guilty verdict, and the next day, they sentenced him to death. The judge declared such a monster could not remain in society. Gacy's multiple appeals were denied, and on May 10, 1994, he was executed by lethal injection. His final words were, "Kiss my ass." Impact on criminal justice and investigations. John Wayne Gacy's case profoundly impacted American criminal justice. His double life as a respected businessman and serial killer exposed how serial murderers can blend into communities. From 1972 to 1978, neighbors reported foul odors and victim families raised suspicions. Police ignored these warnings, dismissing the cases as runaways or sewer issues. This negligence highlighted flaws in serial crime investigations. It prompted nationwide reforms in law enforcement practices. The case reshaped missing persons investigations. Most of Gacy's victims were runaways or marginalized individuals whose disappearances received low priority. Robert Piest's case, driven by his mother Julia Piest's immediate report, changed this. In the 1980s, the U.S. strengthened missing persons databases. It also accelerated the establishment of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. The case underscored the need for swift police response to youth disappearances. Forensic science, particularly DNA analysis, advanced significantly due to this case. 5 of Gacy's victims remain unidentified, their bodies found in the crawl space or river, but unlinked to families due to missing records. In 2011, the Cook County Sheriff's Office reopened efforts to identify them using DNA. This led to the identification of James Hawkinson in 2017 and Francis Wayne Alexander in 2021. These breakthroughs relied on advanced genetic testing that was unavailable in the 1970s. Ongoing identification work continues to offer closure to families. It also demonstrates the evolving role of DNA in criminal investigations, societal and cultural legacy. The case altered societal perceptions. Gacy's Pogo, the clown persona, turned clowns from innocent entertainers into unsettling figures of fear. This shift influenced cultural works such as Stephen King's It. His ability to gain trust as a community figure led to a reevaluation of blind faith in public personas. It encouraged greater scrutiny of individuals in positions of authority. Victims' families endured lasting trauma. During the 1980 trial, families were horrified by Gacy's lack of remorse, especially in his confession tapes where he demeaned victims as trash. Post-trial, families expressed outrage when Gacy's artwork painted in prison sold for thousands at auctions. The case highlighted the need for victim family support, leading to strengthened psychological counseling and legal protections, such as the Victims' Rights Act, which gained traction in subsequent years. Gacy's 1994 execution reignited debates over the death penalty in Illinois, and his unrepentant final words further fueled public outrage. Culturally, the case permeated media. The 2022 Netflix documentary Conversations with a Killer, the John Wayne Gacy tapes featured confession recordings and survivor interviews. It remains a key study for criminologists, especially within the FBI's behavioral science unit. The unit analyzed Gacy's social manipulation to advance serial killer profiling. The tragedy of the 33 victims and their families remains etched in history. The case serves as a reminder to look beyond appearances and pay attention to early warning signs. It reveals how societal and systemic failures enabled a preventable tragedy. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, your like or subscription would truly encourage me to keep going.